So this is kind of weird. I am currently in my restroom because every other room of my home is occupied, and I wanted to be alone to do this video. Um, More than likely, by now, the first part of this video is already up. Um, and I debated whether or not I wanted to even upload that video. Um, I kind of feel guilty coming and even talking about this. I realize that this is what this channel is for, and while I don't necessarily care what people think, I personally just feel guilty about feeling the way that I feel, or even making someone else look a certain way. Um, but these videos are important, and I would be lying to myself and to my future self if I wasn't honest about what I am currently dealing with or what's going on in my day-to-day life. Um, and I should treat these videos like they aren't going on YouTube, but I'm just keeping a personal diary. It's just an alternative to me journaling. So I'll start off from this morning. This morning, I had a very odd dream. Um, I won't go into too much detail, not because it's sensitive information, but it's just not as important to go into detail about the dream, at least right now. But pretty much in the dream, my siblings were here, and Kari and Patrick and Kari's girlfriend were all in the living room with my siblings, and they were under the influence and just not being themselves. And they were making my siblings very uncomfortable with the conversations they were having, and they just weren't treating them well. And I came out the room, and I ended up getting into it hard with Kari, and it resulted in me kicking him out. We got into like a physical fight. I got into it with Patrick. He was just kind of being a douchebag, not being very sensitive to my feelings or to just the situation in general. And when I woke up this morning, I immediately felt the need to go and give my son a hug and tell him I love him. I've had dreams, like weird dreams like that before. It's very far and few between. Like it's only happened a few times, but this was probably the worst one. And I just felt inclined to go and give him a hug. And typically for me, I'm a huggy person. I'm a very affectionate person, but I found that I typically stay away from bothering him, bothering Kari, unless I have to, especially like if he's in his room. Um, like every time I have like some sort of dream where we get into it, he's always like 7 feet tall and super big and muscular and really intimidating. And he's a very small guy in real life, and I think that it just represents that in a sense. I find him intimidating, not like in a bad way where if like he's gonna hurt me or anything like that. I know he loves me, but that's just how my mind works. Very weird. But I've been trying to get over things that I know aren't good for me. um, I mentioned on here the other night, I had a really nice bonding experience with my husband, and I learned a lot about myself, and he learned a lot about himself. And I, since then, have been trying to be better. I focused a lot on, oh, I want to be the best Asia possible physically and mentally, but I was really focusing on the physical part of it and not dealing with things that blatantly needed to be dealt with. Whether that's keeping things from my husband, not like lying to him or anything, but just keeping parts of my life away from him, because I don't want to be judged, whether that's the music I like, just things that I'm into, things like that. And I'm trying to get better with that. Um, and speaking up about the things that I want, the things that I need, whether it's help or I just prefer something to be a certain way, and not dwelling on things and not saying anything for the sake of someone else's feelings, because there's a certain way to ask for things or to talk about things. So I've been just trying to work on that. So For me, getting up this morning and going into his room and initiating a hug and stuff like that, it sounds like a silly thing, but it was a big deal for me. Um, so I did that, and that was again a big deal for me. Okay, that was it. Like paused. So anyway, um, that's what happened this morning. I had a weird dream. So um, I did the video talking about what happened not too long ago with my brother being here and everything, and what happened with like the ottoman, like the little thing breaking or whatever. And I wanted to come here and just talk about how I feel. Um, I I'm a little, I think, disappointed in my husband. Um, I completely respect everyone's feelings. Even when I blatantly disagree, they're your feelings. You're not wrong for how you feel. It's how you feel. Just because I feel differently doesn't make me right or wrong, and it doesn't make anyone else right or wrong. But in this particular situation, I can't help but um, feel like I'm in a unique position here. Again, I've been trying this whole thing where I'm trying to be better. Today, I've actually had a pretty good day up until this point. I've been pretty goofy and just in a really good mood. I spent the majority of the day just kind of hanging out with my husband, playing the game, um, back and forth with my brother, and everything. And, I had a pretty decent day. And I've been trying to be in a better mood. I guess I had been pretty depressed, pretty much kind of somber and moody lately, just dealing with things. But again, since that night, I've been trying to be better. And today was a better day for me, a much better day. And, I get this feeling like it's almost like we're switching places, like the things that I've been dealing with and I'm trying to get better with. It's almost like that negativity is going towards him. I don't know, maybe I'm overthinking things, but you know, a fear of mine is feeling as though the people that I care about the most aren't comfortable in my home or aren't welcome in my home. And I can't help but feel that way a bit. I'm not saying that my husband doesn't care about my siblings or anything like that, but I think that I tend to tiptoe around everyone a little bit because it's always been kind of not really so much recently, but especially before we were married or the beginning years of us being married, it's always been kind of a rocky boat of, you know, my immediate family and then my husband and my son. And, you know, I thought we were finding out a place where, it kind of merged together and it's great. It's a big deal to me. And while I do feel like that is a big step that we've made over the years, today kind of made me kind of hurt my feelings, I think. My brother made an honest mistake. He's a kid. He's a kid and things happen. Um, a leg on an ottoman, an old ottoman that we had, broke. But it was already broken. It was a temporary fix that we did years ago. And, it happened to break while he was here. He was probably playing around and it broke. And my husband was very irritated by that. And I didn't realize that he was irritated just in general um, with him wanting to download games and things like that. Um, and I know my brother is guilty of not really speaking up when it comes to Patrick or Kari, and he'll tend to come to me for things. And maybe it's because, like everyone says, I'm the nurturing one. You come to me, it's like, oh, can I have some food, or can you do this for me or that? But I don't want him to feel that way. I know that he has had to deal with some things when it comes to men just not having a stable relationship with a good male figure in his life. And I know he looks up to Patrick quite a bit. And the idea of him feeling like he can't go to him because he doesn't want to irritate him or he doesn't want to look a certain way, or even just a fear bothers me because that's something that I dealt with for years with my father. And I know it's something that my brother dealt with my father, probably still does, and my sister. And, they dealt with that with my mother's second husband. And that bothers me, a lot. And I never want to put my husband in that category of people that a sibling of mine feels uncomfortable around or scared of, Again, I'm not saying that he's as bad as any of them at all. My husband's a wonderful man. But it starts with not having patience. And I don't want my brother to ever feel uncomfortable. He deals with things. I know he does. His best friend went off to college. He's technically the only child now. And, he has a hard time in school. He gets bullied, things like that. He's been wanting to come over here for weeks and weeks just to hang out, just to be up under us because he thinks the world of us. And, I kind of felt bad, while he's been here and I've been like checking in and out on him. And we spent a little time together yesterday with him. you know, um, our game came out, so we were pretty busy with that. He kept himself busy and everything, but I never, I want to spend more time with him. I don't want to like, oh, you come over, we just ignore you. My husband doesn't necessarily feel the same way, and I respect that. Um, but I decided tonight that again, I don't agree at all with how he feels, or just how he's acting. But I can't say that he's wrong or right. I just disagree. But I decided I'm actually in the middle of making dinner now. I decided that I was gonna spend the night with my brother. I'm going to watch a movie with him over dinner and stuff. Patrick's he's been in the room, since playing his game. I'm not gonna bother him. I'm not gonna bring it up or anything. I'm not gonna mope around or anything. I'm just gonna proceed as if like everything's normal. Because again, I'm trying to stay more positive, and not dwell on things. But it was important to me that I came here and talk about it. I don't want my brother to think anything's wrong. I don't want him to feel bad. I know he feels bad, and I know he can tell that Patrick was irritated. And I want to I guess, kind of disguise that and not just feel like I'm tiptoeing around my brother and tiptoeing around my husband. I hate that feeling. I shouldn't feel that way at all. But it's how I feel. And um, I was texting my mom. She's gonna bring my brother some stuff, and I'm gonna have her bring his Xbox One system and his games so that we won't have to bother Patrick anymore with asking him to get games or anything like that. He's a kid. He just wants to be entertained. So, and the PS4 is not available because Patrick's playing it. Typically, he would usually be on the PS4. So I'm having her bring his gaming console so he can be busy and have things to do. Because I don't want him to be bored. I want him to be able to do things, have fun like a kid should, and not have to worry about feeling like he's bothering anyone by asking for things. And I could go and try to give him a bunch of games, but I don't necessarily know how to do it as well as, say, Akari or Patrick. But I don't want to bother my husband anymore. I don't want him to be more irritated because apparently that's an issue for him. So instead, to keep the peace, I'm just gonna have my mother bring his console. Um, and I just decided I don't want to be around that negativity right now, and I don't like that I feel that way towards my husband. But you know, I don't know what's going on with him. Maybe I'm overthinking it. Maybe I am being sensitive. Maybe it's just an Asia thing. And if it is, I'll deal with it, and I will admit that if that is the case. It's times like this, I wish I had someone to talk to get advice from. Like, am I wrong? Should I be approaching this differently? I'm not like, oh, I'm going to sleep on the couch tonight. No, that's ridiculous. We're not beefed out or anything. I just don't want to be around that kind of mindset. I feel a certain level of responsibility, a lot of responsibility when it comes to my mother and my siblings and anyone, even my husband. I don't like the idea of anyone making my little brother feel that way. Even if he doesn't, I want to avoid that altogether. Um, and I want him to know he's loved, and I want him to feel welcome here. And I mentioned my dream earlier in this video because while it's not nearly as bad as the dream, I can't help but feel like it's kind of like how I felt in the video. It's kind of like the idea of my siblings or my brother being uncomfortable here or feeling like he has to tiptoe around people in my home. And that bothers me quite a bit. That's something he's had to deal with for years. And he should not have to deal with that here. This should be an escape from that kind of thing. My husband just clearly doesn't have as much patience as I thought did. And I accept that, but it doesn't mean that I am going to agree and that um, I'm going to side with that mindset. Um, my brother is my brother, but he's my baby. I helped raise him. He is, Patrick mentioned in the other video, it's a difference between yours and someone else's kids. But, I'm sorry. I don't agree with that when it comes to my brother. He goes in that category for me because I've been in his life since he was born. I had a hand in raising him. As much as he's my brother, I'm like his second mom. So I don't feel that way. But, just because I feel that sort of responsibility when it comes to my brother, I can't expect everyone else to. So that's why I say I respect the way he feels, but I can't get behind it. So I don't want my brother to feel bad. I don't want him to feel unwelcome. I don't want him to feel like he has to tiptoe around anyone. So I'll let him to continue to come to me if he needs something. We won't go through Patrick or anything like that. And I will continue to be me and love on him. And I will spend time with him tonight. I don't want him to think that we're shying away from him, or I just don't want him to feel like he can't say anything. Like even this morning, he didn't, it was a cereal he didn't want. So instead of finding an alternative or asking Patrick when he woke up, he just told Patrick, oh yeah, I ate, because he didn't want to bother him about it. And that just shouldn't be a thing, at all. So instead he waited till I woke up and then asked me if he could have something. And I don't like that. Um, but that's how it is. And I would do the best that I can with that. So I'm going to go finish dinner and then I'm going to spend some time with my brother.